Welcome to the podcast. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most beloved video game series of all time, The Legend of Zelda. Let's start with the basics. What makes The Legend of Zelda series so special to you?
The Legend of Zelda has always been about adventure, exploration, and the thrill of discovery. From the moment you step into the world of Hyrule, you're enveloped in a rich tapestry of lore, compelling characters, and challenging puzzles. It's not just a game, it's an experience.
Absolutely. The series has such a unique blend of elements. Can you tell us about your first experience with Zelda? Which game did you start with?
My first Zelda game was Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64. I was instantly captivated by the expansive world, the intricate dungeons, and the time-traveling storyline. The moment when Link pulls the Master Sword for the first time is something I'll never forget. It set the standard for what I expect from an adventure game.
Ocarina of Time is often cited as one of the greatest games of all time. It's incredible how it set the bar so high for 3D adventure games. Speaking of different eras, how do you feel about the evolution of the series over the years?
It's fascinating to see how the series has evolved. Each game brings something new to the table while maintaining the core essence of Zelda. For example, The Wind Waker's cel-shaded graphics were a bold departure from the more realistic style of its predecessors. Yet it worked beautifully. And then there's Breath of the Wild, which completely reinvented the open-world genre with its emphasis on exploration and player freedom.
Breath of the Wild certainly changed the game. It was such a refreshing take on the open-world formula. What are your thoughts on its impact and how it compares to previous titles?
Breath of the Wild was revolutionary. It stripped away many of the conventions that had become standard in the series, like linear dungeon progression, and replaced them with a truly open world where you can go anywhere and do anything from the start. This freedom was exhilarating. It also introduced mechanics like climbing and cooking, which added layers of depth to the gameplay. While it felt very different from previous Zelda games, it retained that sense of wonder and adventure that defines the series.
That's true. The game mechanics and the open-world design have influenced many other games since its release. Now, let's talk about the storyline. Zelda games often have deep and intricate lore. Do you have a favorite storyline or a particular game that stands out to you in terms of narrative?
Twilight Princess has a special place in my heart when it comes to story. It's darker and more mature than many other Zelda games, with themes of twilight and transformation. The relationship between Link and Midna is one of the most compelling in the series. Midna's character development, from a somewhat mischievous guide to a true ally, adds a lot of emotional depth to the game.
Twilight Princess does have a fantastic storyline. It's interesting to see how each game explores different themes and tones. Speaking of characters, which ones do you think have had the most significant impact on the series?
Link, of course, is the heart of the series. Despite being a mostly silent protagonist, his courage and determination resonate with players. Zelda herself has evolved from a damsel in distress to a powerful figure in her own right, particularly in games like Breath of the Wild. And we can't forget Ganon, whose various incarnations have provided some of the most memorable villain encounters in gaming history.
Link, Zelda, and Ganon are indeed iconic. Their dynamics and the roles they play in each game keep the series fresh and engaging. Are there any side characters or lesser-known characters that you feel deserve more attention?
There are so many great side characters. One of my favorites is Linebeck from Phantom Hourglass. He's a treasure hunter with a lot of personality, and his character arc adds a lot of humor and heart to the game. Another one is Groose from Skyward Sword. He starts off as a bully but goes through significant character development, becoming a hero in his own right. These characters add depth and richness to the Zelda universe.
Those are excellent choices. The side characters often add so much flavor to the story and world. Before we wrap up, let's talk about the future. What are your hopes and expectations for the next Zelda game?
I'm excited to see where the series goes next. Breath of the Wild 2, or whatever it ends up being called, has a lot of potential. I'm hoping they build on the mechanics and world of the first game while introducing new elements to keep it fresh. I also hope they delve deeper into the lore and perhaps give us more insight into the history of Hyrule. More dynamic interactions with the environment and a deeper storyline would be fantastic.
The anticipation for the next game is definitely high. It will be interesting to see how they push the boundaries further. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and passion for the Legend of Zelda series. It's been a fantastic discussion.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk about Zelda. The series has brought so much joy and adventure to my life, and I'm sure it will continue to do so for many years to come.
Absolutely. And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep exploring and embracing the spirit of adventure.